Hello students, this is the fourth part of our second semester's second point of Introduction to Literary Terms part 2. So in this part we are going to start on page number 169. The point is pastoral. So actually what is the meaning of pastoral that we are going to learn here. In literature, the pastoral refers to literature set in rural setting. So in literature, particularly pastoral, it means the setting in rural area, village area or countryside area. Focusing on rural themes and imagery and a general idealizing the countryside. The pastoral has been described as a model by Paul Alford. So this pastoral was used as model by Paul Alford, and as it appeared in both different kinds of literature such as poetry and prose. Both kinds of literature, poetry and prose, there we can see pastoral literature and also different genre of literature like the ode and the elegy. So what is the meaning of ode? A lyrical poem of exalted tone. Exalted, it means raise up, and elegy a poem of lament. Lament, it means deep sorrow. Next paragraph. The rural is always set in opposition to the urban. So in that area we can see the rural side is set opposite to the urban side, city side. And the former is seen as more innocent, and there we can see the rural people shown very innocent, closer to nature and religion, and uncultivated. Uncultivated it means not highly educated, simple and free of voice. Possibly the best known subgenre of pastoral literature is the pastoral elegy. So possibly the sub-genre or sub-style of pastoral literature is pastoral elegy, which uses pastoral elements like village scenes, shepherds with their flocks, cattle, bale, etc., to express their grief at the loss of a loved one. So when any shepherd or any village person lose his or her cattle, any cow, buffalo, sheep, so that time what kind of sorrow that person, that village person is having, that we can see in this kind of literature. Examples of pastoral elegy include Thomas Gray's elegy written in a country churchyard, and Walt Whitman's When Lilacs Last in a Dooryard Bloomed. Next point. Prologue. So actually what is the meaning of prologue? Now look at here. A prologue is an introduction given before the beginning of a story. So at the beginning of any story there is given a little introduction about that story, that is called prologue. It provides the context, background detail, and any other required information, such as what the reader or audience might expect from the story, how it will proceed. So there are given many information about the context, about the background detail, and many other information given to the audience. The term prologue is derived. Derived it means received from the Greek word prologos, which means a word before. It is widely, next paragraph, it is widely believed that Euripides invented the prologue. So it is believed that there is a writer Euripides who first started this technique of prologue. It took the form of an explanatory first act in his plays. This form was directly adapted into English theatre in Elizabethan era during the Renaissance. Renaissance it means revival. The prologue was significantly condensed. Condensed it means make more close. It is longer span. Span it means spread an entire act, but consisted of a narrator of a couple of minor characters conversing for a brief period of time. The prologue here served to quieten the audience and alert them to the play's beginning, inform them of the theme and important character, and provide a few background details for context. The actor in the prologue typically work black in contrast to the colorful costumes of the cast and no mask. Next paragraph. The prologue has also been adapted successfully into the novel form, and several novels employ it to round out a plot or provide contextual information. It is important to note that prologue is not the same as the preface, so there is not much similarity between the prologue and preface. Preface is also introduction of any program. Though they may serve the same function, the preface is written by the author in his/her own voice, while the prologue is always a part of a story, is narrated or written from the point of view of the functional character. Next point, and that is rhyme. So rhyme it means the repetition of the sound. Rhyme can be defined as the repetition of the same sound in two or more words. It is used in poetry at the end of lines in a stanza to create a melody effect. There are several different kinds of classification of rhyme. So rhyme is not of one kind. There are many kinds of rhyme. Based on various parameters, some of the most popular classifications are: number 1, masculine and feminine rhyme. So what is the masculine and feminine rhyme? First, masculine. A masculine rhyme scheme consists of the single stressed syllable which bears the rhyme. So, in masculine a rhyme scheme consisted a single straight syllable. It means in first line the word day, in second line last word be, in third line way, fourth line me. It means the similarity of sounds in single word syllable. Day, way, in this way. Now next, a feminine rhyme scheme consists of stressed syllable followed by the unstressed syllable which bear the rhyme. So in feminine rhyme scheme consisted of a stress given to the syllable followed by unstressed syllable. For example, last word, sought or taught, in this way. Then next is ain't or tell and internal rhyme. End rhyme occurs when the rhyming words are at the end of each line is in the verse. So at the end of any line of the poem there are two words same pronouns or have the same sound. Those words, those last word of last lines are called end rhymes. Internal rhyme occur when the rhyming words are in the same line. So when there is only one line and in that one line there are two words who were having the same pronunciation or same sound in one line, so that is called internal rhyme. For example, one line, once upon a midday dreary while I pondered weak and weary. This is the one line, and in this one line two words are there, dreary and weary. Next is exalt. Exact and approximate. Right. Approximate, it means nearly closer. Exact rhyme uses exactly identical rhyme sound. So in this we can see identical rhyming sound. And approximate rhyming, also called slant rhyme, uses words which sound similar but are not exactly identical in sound. For example, on, moon. These are not exactly in sound, same in sound. Then I rhyme. This kind of rhyme refer to the use of words which look similar but do not sound similar when spoke loud, like move, glow, food, flood, laughter, slaughter, in this way. Next point is rhythm. Let me first clear this side. After that we will learn about that. So wait a minute. A repetitive pattern of sound which creates a melody is called a rhythm. It is derived means received from Greek word rhythmos, which means measured motion. Rhythm is a natural component of speech. We stress certain syllables and words and do not stress other. Rhythm can, however, be created through literary techniques. So there are many techniques of rhythm. For example, trochee, lamb. So this consists of two syllables. The first of this is stress and the second is unstressed. For example, tiger, burning, in this way. Lamb. This consists of two syllables. The first of these is unstressed and the second is stressed. For example, soft, lighter, in this way. Spondy. This consists of two syllables, both of which are consequently stressed. It means break, cold, in this way. And pest. This consists of three syllables. The first two syllables are unstressed and the last syllable is stressed. For example, down, wolf, fold, in this way. Dactyl. This consists of three syllables. The first syllable is stressed and the last two syllables are unstressed. For example, primal, murmuring in this way. So students, in this way, this point introduction to literary terms second ends here. So we are going to stop here. Have a good day to all of you. Thank you very much.